So I'm Ken Wilson. I looked at the bio that had been graciously prepared for me, and I saw that everything on the bio is something I'm no longer doing. I'm retiring this, retiring that. I used to run a foundation. I retired from that. I was one of the founders and the chair of the Global Alliance on the Future of Food. I retired from that. So something slightly more encouraging. I retired to do some other things, and one of them is to be, is to farm, actually in Borneo. So I'm a wannabe farmer in Borneo. I just came back from work that I've been doing on and off for 30-odd years in Africa with farming communities. That's how I'm spending my time at the moment, trying to live the life that we are been struggling for, I suppose. This is our closing session. I've been obviously living a conference-avoiding life these last months. So here I am at a conference, my karma, I suppose. It's great, it's been a good one. I'm not going to say very much about my own experience of the conference. I think that we have a more interesting methodology for doing this session. But I will say that I was very struck at this conference how significantly the field has evolved in the decades that I have been struggling around these issues, really in ways that we could never have expected. There's a very deep transformation. There's all kinds of unprecedented discussions. I think a lot of that comes out of the very deep flux that we are in the field. Simultaneously, we have deep fissures. You remember in the opening day, reading what the CEO of Cargill was saying, etc. There were very, very deep underlying fissures and cracks and breaking and wobbling in this system, which is leading both, of course, to even more desperate attempts to justify it and prop it up and vilify anybody trying to change it, at the same time as we can see change is coming. We can see it even coming from the inside. We can see a new generation who just isn't with those assumptions anymore. And we can see people who have perhaps, been rigidly on one side of the fence for a long time, seeing the possibility of something very different. And that's, I think, of course, really exciting. And where does true cost, if you like, come into all of that? This is something that Thomas Hartung said to me a few moments ago, and I thought he really captured it, which is that the true cost process can encourage questions, can inspire ideas. It's not going to lead us to dollar and cent decisions, but it can open up a new way of looking at what's wrong and what could be different in the systems that we are living in. One main area which I've been reminded again is in our way of making this change, it seems to me, is that our food justice, environmental justice movements on the one hand, and our sustainable agriculture, sustainable food movements on the other hand, still have major work to do to be in the same movement. There's 100 reasons for that, but I think we need to honestly eyeball it, and I think we need to struggle with it. And when we can make that change, I think we will be in an entirely different, not only political dynamic, but cultural dynamic in the US and globally with getting out of the rut that we're in. We thought, let's end this conference, however, not with me or anybody else preaching at you, but with a call to action. And we decided to do this through something that Patrick just told me about, which is called Ignite speeches or something like that. I like this term Ignite. I'm generally speaking in favor of pyroclastic interventions. So Ignite, short interventions by people that will bring some fire, some passion, something meaningful that they've gotten hold of. We've in fact invited a cross-section of participants. To make it fair, we gave them almost no warning, or if we gave them warning, it was confusing. So here they are, fabulous, thank you everybody. We've invited you from very different streams in our movement, very different experiences, to try to look with us at what actually has been the significance of this conference and where are we going to go next. And we're going to waving at them a couple of questions, which you will also find on your chair, because just as I or a single keynote speaker is not going to tell you what the meaning of this conference is. We want all of you to struggle for a moment with that. And if you could scribble anything on these pieces of paper and just leave them on your chairs, we'll gather them up and try to use them as a kind of crowd wisdom creating device to work out what did this mean. So here are our questions, which will be also our questions for our Ignite speakers. What has inspired me during the conference in such a way that it will really affect how I see and engage in these issues going forward? So what's inspired me? And secondly, what are the actions? What are the actions that I will take both individually and in my sphere of interest or expertise, which in one way or another will help to make this transformation that this conference is particularly looking at, which is the economic climate, for driving systemic change in our food and agricultural system. So those are our two questions. I am, however, going to allow almost anything from our wonderful presenters, except that this is not the time to condense your general discussion of what's wrong in our food system or what you'd like to see happening. Give us something, give us a point of flame that we can get hold of that comes out of this conference. We are not going to moderate you then in what you say. We want you to be immoderate and generally dangerously alight, but we are going to stand ready to throw a bucket of cold water over you if the fire goes on a little bit too long. So in order to avoid any problems of pneumonia or anything like that, Patrick is going to start waving this wonderful bell at you when you reach 3 minutes. So after that, it's moments until you get the bucket of cold water. Let's get to it then. We have, in fact, we're going to let the speakers introduce themselves and we'll start the clock.
Three minutes. Okay, what has inspired me the most in this couple of days is really the passion that all of you bring to the table, the passion that you all show in terms of how clearly desperate we are for solutions, and the passion to try to find solutions collectively. That's something that is rare to see in any field that I have any experience relating with directly. And one of the things that I also learned and that inspired me a lot is that, and Patrick, you did this very well in terms of how you organized it, because it's clear that we can only tackle this issue if we model what are some of the different issues that come together to conform this system that we call the food system. And the only way we're going to be able to find solutions is if we understand that it is a complex system and that we each have perspectives, and that perspectives are all valid, or all need to be respected, and we all need to be open to them. This is not a system that we're going to solve by having one way of looking at things. We have to find many different ways to looking at things, and I think that you very much hit the nail with the way you organize the conference. So I'm really thankful for the way you did it, Patrick. Now, as we contemplate all the ills and issues of excess, greed, and inequality of the American food system, I just want us to not forget that this is not the only food system in the world, that there are others in the world who are trying to struggle to find solutions to their own systems. And their own systems are not necessarily simpler. Therefore, we should not be looking for solutions that are simplistic for others, but complex for us. And nothing better to remind us of this point than a wonderful article that Kofi Annan and Sam Dryden. Sam, where are you? Sam Dryden and Kofi Annan wrote recently in the Foreign Affairs Journal. It says, the new African food system should be built around the idea that agriculture is about more than producing calories. It's about changing society. It's about valuing the smallholder farmer, empowering women, focusing on the quality as well as the quantity of food, creating a thriving rural economy, and protecting the environment. So this is not, you see, these are the same things that we're looking for in this system in the United States. It's the principles that we are looking in other systems. And perspectives are going to be very important in trying to finding the solution. Now, we do need to find a solution because these wicked problems are really going to be the crux of whether we make it through the end of the 21st century. And one of the things that I believe we also displayed in this conference, it says 0. I thought it was from 0 to 3. Okay. Joy is important. Finding solution is going to be joyful. So when we understand that this is not here, that we're not here to fight, that we're not here to find what's wrong with the argument of the other, but we're here to find solutions, and we feel the joy, we're going to make progress.
You only get those extra seconds if you've got something beautiful to say like that. So for our second contestant, there's a prize for anyone who finishes before the bell. We have Doria Robinson.
Thank you for this surprising opportunity. My name is Doria Robinson. I'm one of the collective members at Urban Tilth, an urban agriculture organization in Richmond, California, across the Bay. First thing I want to start off with just saying what I was really set on fire, or who I was really set on fire by, and that was Professor John Eckert, who just brought mad fire to the panel we were just on just by being an agricultural economist that said that food sovereignty, relationships, and radically transforming, having a revolution of values is what we need moving forward in terms of the retooling, restructuring, redoing our food system. Extremely powerful, much deeper than, I can't really summarize what he said, but food sovereignty. And kind of moving from that, I need to say that there's a protest that's going on in relationship to this conference. There are a number of people who do the work that I do in the East Bay who refuse to come. We got some free tickets, and I offered them out to my colleagues. And they said that they refused to come. They did not want to be here because they were not included in the planning and organization, even though they are doing radical innovations on the ground and have for many years, some of them 20, 30 years. I need to bring that because we need everyone's voice here. From the beginning, radical inclusion from planning in order to solve this larger problem of what the food system needs to look like in order to serve us all. If we're talking about that food is a right, we have to say a right for all, including those working on the ground and those who might not have the money to purchase a ticket, and we should be included in the beginning of the conversation. So, and then I just need to end on, I'm happy that I came. The cross-pollination is amazing to just be able to cross paths with people from Iowa and other farmers and other people doing work so I can reflect on what I'm doing and make sure it's in alignment for where I really want to go. And I just wanted to say, we need to keep going. There's so much more work to do because we still have these two movements, food justice, food sovereignty, and kind of, sustainable food, and they need to be one. Thank you.
And she did it inside the bell. What about that, Anna?
Thanks. Well, I just want to say I feel ignited by you, Doria, so thank you so much for coming here and sharing with us. My name is Anna Lappé, and I'm with Real Food Media. Some of you heard me yesterday. I was the moderator on the panel with Saro and Joanne and Oliver. And I guess I'm curious to just know kind of how you all are actually feeling coming out of this conference. So if you'll humor me, and you can look around and see how other people are feeling. So I'd love to just see, by a show of hands, how many people right now are feeling smarter? Okay. How many people right now are feeling angry or maybe more angry? I would raise my hand on that one. How many of you are feeling more connected? A lot of you. And how about exhausted? I will raise my hand really high for that one. And how about inspired? Okay, awesome. I feel particularly in this sort of spirit of what ignites me. I feel, as so often I do, how I approach these things. One of my friends described it as, she said, Anna, the way you kind of approach this work is like biting into a hope sandwich, where it's like the really bad stuff on top, there's also bad stuff on the bottom, but there's great stuff in the middle. And so I feel I'm always motivated and inspired by the gravity of the problem and the inspiration and potential of the solution, and I felt that really these past 2 days. In terms of the gravity of the problem, one of the things that really ignited me, for those who were in the public health session, Ruth's session, it was amazing. Just to throw out there, one of the things I learned is that just looking at the cost of just endocrine disrupting chemicals in only the EU, we are talking about a $270 billion cost. And that was only 5% of the endocrine disrupting chemicals, right? So that was sort of further igniting about the crisis. And then yet, I really feel the sense of we are faced with incredible opportunity and potential right now on the ground in terms of the policy that's moving and in terms of the advocacy that's happening that we can all tap into. So when you think about the power of the Good Food Purchasing Program, you heard us talk about it yesterday, passed in Los Angeles, cities across the country are now talking about passing this policy. We can all get behind that. When I think about the power of the Fight for 15, that is not just a labor issue, that is a food movement issue, and we can all be a part of that. And then the final thing I would say, as a resident of Berkeley, California, a proud resident of the first city to pass a soda tax in this country, I can say that all across this country, there are folks talking about how to bring that win to their city. We had a city of 100,000 people. The soda industry spent $2.5 million, and they lost so badly that it meant that they ended up spending $700 per yes vote they got, which was a tiny fraction of the vote. I want to come back here, see all of you in 5 years, and come back saying, we have swept the country with soda taxes. So thank you, and thanks for all you do.
Hi there. I want to add one thing to one question to Anna's question. How many of you, like me, feel humbled by this meeting? Oh my God, it's been amazing. One of the things, I'm Whendee Silver. I am a professor at UC Berkeley, and I study the solutions. I try to come up with solutions to climate change. One of the things that I learned from this conference is that the true cost of food, understanding this and dealing with it, is more complex than even I could have imagined. And in my field, we embrace complexity, so I think this is pretty exciting. I see all this opportunity out there to address these problems from so many different perspectives, and I see people coming together, and I'm very enheartened and excited about that. More personally, I see many places where science is needed. I'm going to go out and recruit all my colleagues to start working on the science that we need to support these solutions, and I encourage all of you to go find your favorite scientist and bring them on board. I want to live in the world that Dan Imhoff outlined this morning. I found that really exciting. So now I feel like I've got a target, I have a vision of where we need to go, so let's get to work and let's go do it. Thank you.
So I'm Peter Lehner, and now with Earth Justice, and I'm actually quite new to spending full time on this issue, so I'm both inspired by everybody, grateful to be here, and very happy to have met so many people whose names I've heard and work I've read about. And what I'm going to say should be considered a thought experiment. This is really a truly back-of-the-envelope idea that I scribbled out during the morning. And it basically, and I'm a lawyer, by the way, not an economist, but as I listened to everybody yesterday talk about the externalities, and some of them put numbers on those externalities, I thought, well, why not add them up? So I quickly Googled the cost of the current food system, what in a sense is the apparent cost, which I figure is sort of what's reflected in the price we pay. And then I started thinking about what we heard about yesterday. and this makes it a little easier. So Tyler talked about $3 trillion of healthcare costs. 80% of those are chronic diseases. 80% of that is caused by lifestyle. Diet's a big part of that, so I cut it in half. So that's about $960 billion. We heard about fair wages, people getting screwed throughout the system, and so there's 22 million workers in the food system. We noted that the wages of processing plant workers went down $10 from 78 to the present. So I took $10 an hour, multiplied it by a year. That's another $440 billion. There was a panel yesterday on corn and soy that noted that soil loss is about $40 an acre, 300 million acres of farmland. I cut it in half because what the hell? So that's $6 billion. There was a panel yesterday that said that the cost of water pollution is between 97 billion and 600. I cut it in half, took the average, and that comes out to about 360. And I noted there on water use, we use about 30% of water nationwide. We use more of it in California for agriculture, plus the average cost of water. That's another 388 billion. The Farm Bill is $80+ billion a year. I was stunned by how little greenhouse gases are. If you take 30% of US greenhouse gas emissions plus a rough cost of social cost of carbon of about $70, it actually is the only one that doesn't even break into the billions. But if you add all that up, and by the way, we're not talking about animals suffering, people suffering, lost productivity, cancer, wildlife, or all those other things, you end up getting the apparent cost of food at about 1.6 trillion, and all these additional costs, another $2.2 trillion. So the real cost of food is at least about 2.5 times what we pay at the store. This is a thought experiment. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an economist, but it's sort of cool to think about it this way. Anyhow, I thought you might enjoy that.
Hi, I'm Laurie David, executive producer of Fed Up. The true cost of American food, I think, is 1 in 3 people in America overweight or obese, and also the stunning fact that we now have the first generation of children that are going to lead a shorter lifespan than their parents. That is truly upsetting. So what to do? As a community, as a movement together, we have to come up with some big, bold messages to permeate popular culture. And I want to add on to what Anna said. We have a low-hanging fruit happening right now in this movement, and we're leaving it to a very small group of funders and a very small group of organizations, and that is the fight for a soda tax. Soda is the tobacco of the food industry. And if we want to protect kids, we have to, all of us, start activating on getting the soda tax passed, because the beverage industry is spending millions. They're crushing it everywhere, and it's going to take all of us. I want to just tell you very quickly about a new study that just came out saying that taxing sugary drinks would save a half a million kids from obesity. That came out from Harvard today. And I want to add one more piece to it: soda tax for real school food. So the money that we raise from the soda tax goes right into the schools where it's needed most. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Douglas Gayeton from the Lexicon of Sustainability. We made the film that was shown earlier in this conference about the tale of two chickens. It was an interesting journey, Patrick, to make that film, and I really enjoyed making it with you because it's so challenging to explain what true cost is, as I'm sure we've all seen over the past couple of days. We can look to other challenges that we face on this planet in terms of the challenges of messaging really important ideas, and I can just start with one right now. Or not. I could draw it. This is how climate change is explained. We see a polar bear on an ice floe, and we're told that we put him there. So how did we put him there, and how are we going to get him off? The disconnect that people have with climate change is that they know there's a series of actions that they're engaged in that they don't know how to stop in order to change the reversible effects of climate change. How are we going to explain true cost when we leave this conference? I'm a person who's entirely only focused on messaging. For 3 days, I've been talking to people, trying to get them to explain their vision the way that they explain true cost accounting. We're all storytellers. Anybody who walked through here at lunch, any of these days we've been together, knows that we're sharing stories with each other. If I could ask one thing of everybody here at this conference, is to find the stories that you can take home with you to your families, to your friends, to the people you work with. Because those stories you tell, if we can take something so complicated as anything which has the word accounting in it, and make it real for people, make it personal for people, make it something that they can actually engage with to shift, then this conference will have been a success. There is no answer. There is no velvet curtain that we're going to pull back and find a switch. It's going to take a number of people, all of us in this room, finding those stories that we can share with others. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Angie McKee. I'm the project manager for SFUSD's Future Dining Experience, and we're in the process of reimagining and redesigning the school food system within San Francisco. I think we've learned a lot from this conference, and I just want to emphasize one point in terms of the cafeteria and the value of the cafeteria for our community. Every day I go out to school sites and I do workshops with our students, and especially our students in our most high-need schools. And I've heard from those students that the cafeteria serves as a place to be able to develop community within their schools. Our cafeterias are oftentimes our most underinvested space in our school districts, and I want to encourage you all to start thinking about the cafeteria as a space that we can use to build community. And by building community, we'll also eliminate some of our social problems. And I believe one of our biggest things that my students have expressed to me is that by having a cafeteria space where they feel as though they're an equitable citizen within the school, they're able to sit down and have conversations with other students and alleviate some of these social deterrents that are, I'm trying here, Shakira. I want to say thank you, by the way, for all your statements in terms of race and the food system. And I just really want to say that our school food system oftentimes are serving our students food that's really, really bad for them. And we have an opportunity to invest in that food and invest in our students' bodies and show them respect through the food that we're serving them. Because hungry students have a hard time learning, and by keeping our students hungry, we're inhibiting their ability to learn. So one of the things that we're doing in San Francisco and districts across the country and across California especially are investing in school food and using it as a tool to promote the mental health and growth of our students. So I just really want to encourage you to get into your communities and really promote cafeteria food, school food as a resource in the community, and also think about the cafeteria as a place to build community and really strengthen the school. Because our students are really smart and they understand the power of food and to build communities and the power of food on their bodies. And I think we're doing a really big disservice to them by not investing in high quality food for our students. So I want to encourage you to make that a very strong part of what you do, because everyone has a school in their community, and our schools listen to us because they're funded by us. So let's show our students respect for their bodies and minds by purchasing and investing in high quality food, and let's change the future for our generations. Thank you.
I'm Nicolette Hahn Niman. I've been a lot of different things in this movement for the last 15 years. Started out as an environmental lawyer. I've written books, so I'm an author. But I'm also, for the last 13 years, a farmer, a rancher. And I believe that I was asked to participate more or less as a rancher in this last panel. And I just want to say, to me, this was an incredibly inspiring last few days. And partly it was so inspiring, I think, because Sustainable Food Trust has real farmers so much in its DNA. And I think, to me, I've never seen a perspective so inclusive and understanding of agriculture and how it works as I have at this conference. But there's a lot more work to be done on that. And I felt right at the outset that complexity was being embraced at this conference. And I think complexity is key to a truly sustainable food system. So where we oversimplify our messaging, we go down the wrong path. I think we need to embrace the complexity. We are all specialized in our fields, and I think that's good. I think specialization is good, but I think siloization is bad. So we've come together today and over the last few days, and we've been sharing incredible insights in our personal conversations and on the panels. And we're going to go back to our specialties after the conference, but I hope we won't go into silos. And we'll remain connected with the other people that we've been talking to the last few days and hearing from, and that we'll try to remember the other interests that are all working to make this a much more sustainable and healthier food system. On behalf of, I can't obviously say I speak for all the farmers in the world, but as a farmer, as a rancher, to me, one of the most inspiring things I ever heard was from Fritjof Capra, the founder of the Center for Ecoliteracy, who is also a physicist and a philosopher. And he made the point that farming happens in nature, and that nature is always a system, an incredibly complex system. So I don't think our food system is simply complex because it's large and global and has so many players and so much money involved in it. It is inherently complex because it starts at nature, and nature is inherently complex. And only humans, he pointed out, make linear machines. That's a human thing that we create. Everything in nature is interconnected, it's interrelated, it has all kinds of impacts that are not easily understood or even understood with the greatest amount of technology. So my plea to all of us is to think always in terms of systems, think holistically. Remember in our advocacy and our work never to alienate the farmers, because that's really where sustainable food production has to start. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Christy Brown, and I am a member of the Sustainable Food Trust Board, a proud member, and I am also the mother of Owsley Brown, who some of you have met, and a very proud mother. I am also the grandmother of 9 glorious grandchildren who I wish were all huddled here around me, and then I wouldn't be so nervous speaking to such an awesome group. But I'm here because of my 9 grandchildren in particular, and I'm also here because of Patrick Holden, who, like many of you years ago, decided to befriend us, to our family first, and then many, many of our friends subsequently. As you know, he's an extraordinary, kind, loving, intelligent global leader. And so Patrick, thank you for all that you've done to have brought many of us on this journey and here today. I also want to thank Patrick for introducing me, as I believe he has to a number of you, maybe many of you, to the remarkable Prince Charles, who I absolutely believe is, without question, one of our world's greatest global leaders, and who I continue to want to learn from. If you have not read his book, Harmony, it's for sale in the front. Please be sure to get a copy. And then after you've finished it, pass it on to friends, because it's filled with the most extraordinary information and helping us each understand how we are all interconnected. He also is helping each of us understand, which has been said just a few minutes ago, that we, in fact, are each nature. These are pretty sophisticated, deep thinking, deep thoughts, but frankly, they're no different from all the thoughts that you've all been sharing here today, and yesterday, and the day before, right? How many days have we been here? I can't even remember. But I also want to thank each of you for all that you do. You are a group of the wisest, most knowledgeable, most passionate, and the most dedicated and clearly the most unselfish group of people that I have been exposed to in a long time. I thank you for that, because you are, and I hope when you leave here, you will leave with the knowledge that you are some of our world's greatest global leaders. Some of you may be biologists, some of you may be the heads of NGOs, or you may be the head of social justice organizations, or whatever your actual niche may be. I would like to suggest that each and every one of you is one of our world's greatest global health leaders. Health leaders. I don't know if you can see the slide, but as far as I'm concerned, you own the word in the center of our circle of harmony and health, which is called health. And you're the ones that understand that in order to be healthy, in order to have a healthy society, a healthy family, and be a healthy human being, you must first have healthy air, healthy water, and healthy soil. And I would like to suggest that regardless of which sphere of life you're working in, you are our world's greatest global health leader. And I would love to think that whether you're in nutritional health area or financial health, psychological health, spiritual health, intellectual health, physical health, cultural health, or environmental health, or many interconnected of all of the above. You are at the center of this circle, and you are at the center of finding the solutions for saving our desperately unhealthy world. We are in a tragic state in this world. We are dying hundreds of thousands of people because of our unhealthy air every year. And you know the list way better than I. But I do believe that each of you holds the world in your hands, and that each of you are the ones who are actually able to break down those silos. Many of you have been talking over the last several days about these silos. And yes, you're right. This group here, when we reconvene in whatever numbers of years, it's got to be vastly bigger. And it's got to be all-inclusive. And it's got to be representing all of the leaders in all of the spheres of our being. Then we will actually be being the kind of global leaders that I know we can be and must be. Well, I don't believe that Martin Luther King, when he began the effort with the chant of "We shall overcome," I don't believe that he probably had at the time at his fingertips the groups of connections that you all have here already. You represent billions and billions of people. You represent millions and maybe billions of dollars of influence. But you are and only when you come together under the umbrella of health and you say to the world, we represent health, and therefore this is what has to happen in various X, Y, and Z. When you do that and we do that together, we will change the world. So I would like for those of us that can stand up to please stand up. And I'd love you to look to your left and look to your right, and I'd like you to hold hands with the person that you're standing next to. And I'd like you to lean back and hold Sam's hand, since Sam can't stand up. And I would like us to make whatever pledge you would like to make, but the pledge I would hope you would make is that you would say together, we are the world's greatest health leaders, and we are going to change the world and make it a healthy world because of that. Thank you.
So that's Ignite. That's Ignite. That was pretty cool. I'm going to remember Ignite. 10 of our number were prepared to come up here with however many minutes or hours notice they had and share something so powerful. So thank you.